couldn't be with me when I left my multi-million-dollar salary as a pastor a year ago to start raising support. She went ahead and took a job. So because this conference is Sunday through Wednesday, she wasn't able to make the journey. We live in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. We have 4 kids. Our oldest is married. He graduated from Bob Jones University about 3 years ago. His wife graduated in December. Unfortunately, it looks like they're going to stay down south. Oh, man, I don't know why. But he and his best friend down there are going to start a construction company, so looks like we've lost them. But then our second oldest son is a senior at Faith Baptist Bible College. He is studying for ministry. He wants to be a pastor or a missionary as God leads. Our third son, he's the one who said, now, Dad, it was kind of expected, or at least the kids thought they were all expected to go to college. He's like, Dad, I really just don't want to go to college. I'm like, Bud, you don't have to. And so he works. Do you like Johnsonville brats? Okay. He is literally the chef. Okay, so he's an assistant team leader there, makes their headquarters and all their a lot of their factories are about 5 minutes from my house. So he works there, loves it. He's making 6 figures. I kid you not. I mean, it's crazy how much they make. And that's maybe why your food's so much. Anyway, because of my son's salary. But he just got married this July, I guess it was. Need to figure that one out. In July. And then we went pink at the end, so our little girl is a senior in high school. She's probably going to go to Faith Baptist Bible College as well, which means that in less than a year, Maria and I are empty nesters. So, God's timing is perfect because what Mark Kittrell, the director of our mission board, it's Pacific Rim Missions, there it is, Pacific Rim International asked us to do is basically be on the road almost all the time. So 6 months a year, Maria and I will be overseas. We'll spend about 3 months in the subcontinent area, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar. Hopefully, I say hopefully because there's a civil war going on in Myanmar now. So, as God allows, we'll be in each of these locations. So we'll spend kind of the fall over there, and then the January through March 3-month window in the Philippines. And then we'll come back to the States and be here about 6 months a year where I will be a missions representative, so preaching in chapels, like I preached at Faith Baptist Bible College Chapel in February, was at Central. I don't know if you saw me there, but I preached in chapel at Central. The really handsome guy, maybe not. But anyway, so, doing things like that, but especially going to churches and telling people what I'd like to share with you tonight. So, I finished reading a book last year called A Short History of Missions. This was published in 2019. It's a conservative evangelical book. In other words, it's not written by a liberal. And I was shocked at some of the stats that were in the last chapter, such as this. According to this book, and maybe he's off a little bit, okay? But according to this book, in the year 1900, 95% of all born-again believers on planet Earth lived in Western Europe or North America. Only 5% of believers lived outside of the Western world. Again, even if he's off, let's say 5%, that is still a staggeringly not good number. All right? Now, first century was the greatest century of missions, of church planting and so forth. You can't beat Peter and Paul, and all right. That was the greatest century. What was the second greatest century? Would it shock you, and it did me, if I told you, and this is true, at least according to the stats in this book, that 100 years later, that is from 1900 to 2000, the global shift in where believers lived changed dramatically, so that in the year 2000, the estimate is that 60% of born-again people live outside of the Western world. Now that's not because churches are shrinking. That is true that churches in the West are shrinking, but they weren't as much back in the year 2000. So that 20th century we could talk about, you'd be bored. You said I had to be done by midnight, right? So I better not go into that rabbit trail, but there are a lot of reasons why, but the 20th century was a super important century for the gospel and the church planting worldwide. Now, what does that also mean? I mean, there are many things. One of the things it also means is that in places where missionaries in the 1800s, especially the 20th century, where they went, where churches were planted, and where there are now burgeoning populations of believers. When I share some of the slides and I start telling you about what it's like in some of these places where we serve, I think it's going to shock you. I think it'll blow your minds. So to know that now these churches are fully established, as in decades long established. They are sending out their own missionaries. They are planting their own churches. When I start sharing some of these things, you'll be like, okay, so what is the task of missions? I think there are lots of things that we can talk about, but I think of two things. First and foremost, church planting, okay, above all things. But then secondly, very close to it, 2 Timothy 2:2, training faithful men. That's what we're doing. So Pacific Rim Missions just has 4 missionaries. That's it. We don't want to be a big board. That's not what we're trying to do. What we are doing is starting seminaries or Bible colleges in locations that desperately desire this. So with that kind of as an introduction, let's look at the first country. So I'm one of those walkers. I walk around and I was told I had to stay in the blue line. So I got to whoa, somebody needs to have a fly swatter and kind of keep me in line, I think, here. I got to stand still. All right. So Philippines. So first location that Pacific Rim Missions opened 6 years ago, slightly more than 6 years ago, was in the Philippines. So we went from 1 location in the Philippines to now 5 seminary locations in the Philippines. We have a Bible college in Myanmar, in Yangon, the largest city, not the capital, but the largest city, and then we have 2 Bible colleges in India. All told, among the schools, I think this is the right number, we have 161 students, all men, who are studying for the ministry or who are already in the ministry and want further training amongst these schools or in these locations. So, let's talk Philippines, which is where we first started to begin with. Philippines is divided into 3 different categories in terms of missions, missiology. So the red region has the largest island of the 7,000 plus islands in the Philippines. So think 7,000 islands, about 3,000 of them have people living on them. They're inhabited. The largest one of those is Luzon. That's where the capital of the Philippines is. Manila, almost everybody's heard of Manila. 20 plus million people there, huge. A lot of good churches in Manila, okay, up in that red region. But once you get outside of Manila, the rest of those roughly 2,500 islands, there are hardly any churches. What is the dominant religion in that red area? It is Roman Catholicism. Okay, so I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I wasn't born again until the age of 16. I went to a Catholic high school even. So I know a little bit about Catholicism. And most of those people living up in that area are Catholic and don't know the Lord. Now, look at that light blue area. Second largest island in the Philippines is Mindanao. That light blue island, and then it has a couple thousand trailing islands off of it. What do you think the main religion is there? I'll give you a hint. It's right next door to Indonesia. So the largest religion by far down south in the Philippines is Islam. In fact, there are a number of places that are Category 4 according to the U.S. State Department, meaning Americans don't go there at all, don't even think about it, kind of terrorist activity that goes on. So that's the South. And my Filipino brother said, if you go down there, and they do want us to go down there, so if you go down there, you just bring us with you. We'll go with you, and we know where to go, and they'll be my bodyguards. You understand, I'm tall in the Philippines, so I'm like, I don't know about this. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not going down to that blue area. Okay, anyway. Then there's the green area, or the Visayan or Central Islands. That's where we are. So let's expand that central section. Bohol is, because you're going to Bohol, it's right here, okay? Where we are is this island, Negros. So it's shaped like Italy. It's a boot, but it kicks the other direction. All right. Now, the gospel first got to the Philippines, and I'm still working on the history of it. Okay. I just found out about a kind of like a book that I can get that may help me some more. But as far as I can tell, there was zero gospel in the Philippines up to the year 1899, which is just sad. Not until the year 1900 did missionaries from the American Baptist Convention, 125 years ago, team of them landed on Panay. So this island here. Iloilo, the capital, there's Doan Theological Seminary there. There's this island along with our island, Negros, and then Cebu. Those three islands, if you were throwing a dart and trying to hit the middle, literally these are the three islands in the center. And these three islands, here's the great news, and I'm not exaggerating for effect, they are covered with churches like yours. There are over slightly more than 1,000 Baptist, some of them are Bible, but the majority are Baptist churches just on the western half of our island. So from the middle mountain range over to the sea here, there are a little more than 1,000 churches. Our capital city, Bacolod, I got to eat with dinner. It was awesome. So Jean, Judy, and then Nick and Loy and their two kids. So wonderful dinner. What amazed us was that, I'm talking like, they didn't know that we serve in the Philippines. I'm like, yeah, I landed on this island in the capital city called Bacolod, and they just like stopped me, and they're like, that's literally where Nick's family is from. So anyway, I was trying to sell him on getting a condo over there. So I don't want him to leave your church though. So I'll be quiet. I'm done with that. But anyway, so this capital city, Bacolod right there are approximately 250 Baptist churches just like yours. Wow. Just in that one city, of 600,000 by night, 1 million people during the daytime. Why so many churches? Must have had a lot of splits. No, that's not it. That's not why. It's because almost everybody in the Philippines walks anywhere they're going to go. They don't have a motorcycle. They definitely don't have a car. About 80% of the people in the city live in a bamboo hut. They don't have indoor plumbing. They don't have electricity. So people don't have computers or laptops. There are some who do, but most of them do not. So they walk from their house to wherever the church is because if you saw how big Bacolod is, it is massive. So with that size of a city, you're not going to go to a church clear across town unless you somehow got a ride or something. All right, so lots of churches, and not just in Bacolod, but in every city on this island and in virtually every village on this island, and even way up in the mountains. When I show a slide from Hinobaan, did I say that right? Maybe not. Anyway, Hinobaan. When I show that slide, and there'll be about 50 men in the church where we host the seminary, most of those men walked 1, 2, even 3 days to get to the class. And I mean, they live, I mean, we're talking volcanic mountain ranges. Where their villages are, where they are pastors, is literally in the middle of the jungle, literally in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, when they're telling me, yeah, we buy rice from the coast, we grow our own vegetables, and most of our protein is from snakes. They literally hunt snakes. I saw people shudder. I'm looking forward to trying it. Anyway, you know, so they literally, that's not an exaggeration. This is what they told me. All right, let's keep going, or we won't get done by 11 p.m., right? So Pulu Pandan is the first location where we started. So there's been a Christian camp here since the 1950s. Mark Kittrell, the president of Pacific Rim Missions, a longtime friend of mine, he planted a church in Hawaii. I messed up. I should have been. All right, anyway, he got to go to Hawaii, plant a church. And then, you know, he got a real burden for that Pacific Rim part of the world, and he started making trips to the Philippines, starting going to Negros in particular. And as he spent a lot more and more time there, they kept saying, hey brother, you know, we're getting older, would you be willing to kind of take over this camp? So we've been running a camp there for now over a decade. Pacific Rim has, on this location where you see this building. And we had about 4,000 campers this summer, all teenagers. We scholarship the camp. So for $10, a kid can go to camp. So the Christian young people from the youth groups or the churches that we serve, they have to pay their own way. But for unsaved kids that our youth group teens invite from their village or from their city, who can come, we scholarship them. So we scholarship more than 1,000 unsaved children, or not children, but teenagers, to come, and there were about 600 who made a profession of faith this summer. So we do things like that. We are involved a little bit in Bible translation and printing Bibles, but our main thing that we're doing is the seminary. So this is a location of the very first spot for our seminary. We had our first graduation ever for any Pacific Rim school here in May, and 7 men, I should put their slide in here, 7 men got a Master of Arts degree. All 7 of them are going to continue on for a Master of Divinity degree. To give you a little idea on, okay, well, like who are these 7 men? They're all already pastors, okay? One of them pastors a church of 900 people. One of them pastors a church of 500 people. Another one who graduated, 400. One of the men who graduated is a church planter, and he's planting it in, I don't know what they would call it there, like a ghetto, kind of like a really, really, really poor area of the capital city of Bacolod. So across the board, from 900 to brand new church plant, these are the men who graduated. One of those 7, by the way, is our very first Filipino teacher. Our goal in our mission is to work ourselves out of a job. Now, a lot of people say that. And other mission boards are serious about it too, but we're very serious about that. We do not want to be here if we don't have to be in 20 years. Okay. I was a board member of Baptist Bible College of the Caribbean on the island of St. Vincent, and so served there with that board for a while. And the 3 of us Americans, 9 black pastors who are from different islands down there, they kept saying, hey, we're ready to take over. We're ready. And so one of the 3 of us Americans talked to a large Baptist mission board, their director of education. We said, so how did you do it? What's the mechanism of turning a school over? How many have you done successfully? And he did about what I'm doing right now, and then said, 0. Every last one of the schools they tried to turn over, college or seminary, all closed. And we're just like, okay, not good. So we had a long off-ramp. We did everything we could. We trained all this stuff. 2 years later. Now, we were still, the 3 of us Americans were on the board, but we weren't in charge anymore. So 2 years later, there was a padlock on the gate. no students. This Baptist college was started in 1956 and almost always had 12 guys, 12 girls in the 2 respective dormitories. Always students for over half a century. And in 2 years, why? So this is a lesson is deep in my memory and my soul. You have to, if you're going to start a school over there, you cannot start it in an American way, because Americans, I'm saying this facetiously kind of, but not totally. Americans don't care about people. Now understand how I mean that. We are a hard-driving, all-about time, ramrodding, get it done. Our to-do list and tasks are far more important than people. I'll give you a quick illustration of this, okay? Literally today. So I'm trying to get here at 4 o'clock because I'm meeting Gene and Judy and Nick and Loy. So I'm trying to get here at 4 o'clock, and I'm eating dinner at one place. I've got to go back to where I'm staying. And so I'm trying to, how do you leave this place and then you go, and the place where I'm staying, the man wants to talk to me, and I'm like, oh man, if I don't leave the next 2 minutes, I'm going to be late. So this is how an American thinks. If we start schools over in the Philippines and the Americans are running it from the beginning and don't have Filipinos, or in India don't have Indians, or in Burma and Myanmar don't have Burmese men helping to be the main leaders from the very beginning, what happens? As soon as we pull out, it just all caves in. So every one of our now 8 schools has a local director. Vice president of our seminary board in the Philippines is Filipino. Okay, he's a pastor of one of the larger churches on the island. Our treasurer, Filipino, for the seminary over there, Filipino. All right, so it's not, oh man, I can't rabbit trail. There's so much more that could be said, but let's keep going. So we're not only down in Pulupandan, I'm sure I'm not saying right, we're also up in Bacolod. I only said that because I have real Filipino people here. And I told them, don't you dare correct me until afterward. So if Nick raises his hand, I'm not calling on him, okay? But anyway, we were up here in the capital city. So I think I mentioned this, 600,000 people at night. It's 1 million during the day. It's huge. And this is Maranatha Baptist Church. The vice president of our Filipino seminaries is in the light blue shirt. He's also the pastor of this church. 500 people. So they asked me to preach a missions conference about 2.5 years ago, something like that, there. So I was over there, and I want to encourage you with this. So the regular 500 were there at the church. They have 2 services, but those 500 were there. Then there were 200 guests. 100 of those guests were from Negros Island. They were pastors or Christian school teachers from the island. The other 100 of the 700 people at this conference were all missionaries. But here's the cool thing. I was the only white American missionary. All the rest of the missionaries, all of them were Filipino. So what we don't maybe realize, this is what I hope to be an encouragement to you. What maybe we don't realize is that as churches around the world are growing, they're starting to outpace us in terms of percentages of missionaries sent and so forth. I met Filipino missionaries to Africa, United Arab Emirates, South Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, list goes on. I mean, I met one brother. He's actually a missionary to a tribe on Luzon. So it's actually in the Philippines, but they call him a missionary because this tribe quit hunting heads, they were headhunters up until just that last generation. So he actually gave me a necklace, and it's got the ceremonial head hunting, all right, anyway, on the bottom of it. So, yeah, it's amazing. So they are now, when we talk church planting in the Philippines, they're like, Leave that to us. Now, they don't mean no American should ever come and plant a church, but they're like, it's going to cost you $90,000 to, by the time you get your health insurance, you pay your taxes, and to raise your soil. And we let our churches do it. We don't even want to charge America a penny. This man in the light blue shirt, Filipino people are the nicest people on the planet, and I'm not saying that just because, of my friends back here. They are the most warm culture, at least of all the places I've traveled. So when a Filipino person talks to you directly, now they're never going to do it in a harsh way, but when they talk to you directly, that's like unusual. And so Pastor June Ogilia, the man here in this picture, in the light blue, he says, now Curt, this was my first time, talking with, well, not the very first conversation, but like that first week I was there, he said, now Curt, I want to tell you something. Now that, I'm like, okay, I better listen. Yes, sir. He said, don't ever give a Filipino anything for free. Never. Let us take care of let us do it. All of our students in the Philippines, they all pay. Now, it doesn't cover all the expenses, but it does cover a good bit of it. So what we're trying to do are start these schools in such a way that when we leave, they weren't run from the beginning as an American school. They were Filipino. And we don't go in and just build big buildings and have a lot of programs and all that stuff. We decided not to do the swimming pool, and no, we don't do that stuff. Instead, we're really, really careful with the finances so that when we leave, they can just take over without missing a beat. All right. We're then also on. This is that where these pastors that are, these are men from like way up in the jungles. Not all of them, but many of them are, some of them are coastal and in a little bit larger cities, but a lot of these men are from up there. We have two other locations that have been opened in the Philippines in the last couple of years. One is in La Carlota and the other is in Basay, all the way down south. All right, so then we're in Myanmar as well. So Myanmar is a school, we are in Yangon. So if you know the old terms, this is Burma and Rangoon. So Rangoon, Burma, now called Yangon, Myanmar. It's not the capital, but it's the largest city, millions and millions of people. This is where we're located, but this is our only school that is shrinking. Okay, and we've considered closing it right now. We have 2 new students this fall, so probably we won't, but you might ask, well, why? Why would you maybe consider closing it? Why is it shrinking? Civil War. Okay, there's been a civil war in this country for 3 years. The military took over, did a junta, they pushed out all the government, they control the whole country outside of the tribal areas, so the tribal rebel armies are fighting. Some of our students are from the tribal areas, some are from it's just as ugly as the Civil War was here where, brothers are fighting brothers, uncles, it's very hard. All right, so this is our building, it's a small one, everything, the dorms. We had 11 students. We were down to 8. I think we have 10 now. One of our students literally walked all the way from Yangon clear across the border over into India, where one of our other Bible colleges is, so he could be there. Why? Because our students, they don't leave the perimeter of our building during the daytime. Sometimes they will at night, but it's too dangerous to leave during the day because military trucks patrol Yangon. And if they see a young man of fighting age, they're liable to just hit the brakes. Soldiers hop out, grab one of our students, take him to base, give him camo, put a gun in his hand, and he's in the Army. So they kind of hide, as it were, here as they're getting their training. We're finally in India, or last we're in India. So India is a country of, like with the Philippines, of religious differences. So Philippines, Catholic, Muslim, and then at least on those 3 islands that I mentioned, lots and lots of good churches. Outside of those 3, not so many. In India, it's a little bit different in that pretty much Everything south of that line is Christian. Now let's put that in quotes, okay? Doesn't mean everyone knows the Lord down there, but there are, and when I mean gobs, it seems like every other month I hear about a new Bible college, or a Bible college that's been there that I didn't know about, new to me, or a seminary down there. There are so many Bible colleges and seminaries in South India, it's just crazy. And I don't mean that there's not a need for another one, but I'm not sure where we would even put one. Okay, so a lot of good churches, large churches there in the South. By the way, quick trivia, what country on earth has the highest per capita amount of Baptist born-again believers? What country? What do you think? The United States. Okay. What country is number 2? India. What country is number 3? Burma, Myanmar. Okay. Why? Who was the first foreign missionary sent out from America? You know his name? Adoniram, no one forgets that once they've heard it. Well, maybe you do because it's strange. But Adoniram Judson, where did he go? Burma, now called Myanmar. Do you know there are Baptist churches all over Myanmar? There are Baptist churches all over the southern part of India. But then, when you go north of that imaginary line that you draw in the middle, what is the main religion? So, 2, actually. By far the larger one is Hinduism, which is the official religion of India. But then on the flanks of India, next to Pakistan and then next to Bangladesh, is where the Muslim enclaves are. So India is the largest country on planet Earth, 1.4 billion people. China's shrinking really fast. So they're like at 750 million only. But still, they're a lot. They're like going to disappear. There are like no children. There are 100 million more men than there are women because of the one-child policy and abortion. It's very, 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 very bad for China. Okay, so they're not doing well at all demographically. India, on the other hand, so they're going to hit 1.7 billion people by 2050. All right, and then they'll start tapering off because they're not having as many children. But this is the second largest Muslim country on earth. And we don't even think of this country as being Muslim, and yet there are a lot of them there. Now, okay, so that's the south, that's the north, and then the flanks of India. Where are we? We're in that circle. This part of India that most people don't even know is India, and in particular, we're in Siliguri, a city of 1.2 million people, about here, and then we're in Nagaland. Okay, so Nagaland. Another little fact. Nagaland. What place on earth has the highest concentration of born-again believers? Yeah, Nagaland. 300,000 estimated of the 600,000 people who are from the Naga tribe know the Lord as Savior. I could give you the whole history of that. It's fascinating. But this is the number one most Christianized part of planet Earth. So we have a Bible college in the largest city in Nagaland. So we rent this former hotel. It got bad enough where they didn't want to use it as a hotel anymore. So we're able to rent it for, it's kind of expensive, but we house up to 80 men here. So our college is not even 4 years old. So we have 12 seniors here, 12 juniors here, 12 sophomores here, and then we open it up. We've got about 30 freshmen this year. Next year, when our first class graduates, then we'll open a Master of Arts program there, maybe MDiv 2, I don't know, we'll see, but at least a Master of Arts program, because there are pastors who already have undergraduate degrees who are interested in training, and then some of our graduates are also interested. If I told you where our graduates, a lot of them are from, I mean, they grow up in villages working from second grade, third grade, fourth grade on the plantations. Okay, their education is not all, I mean, they have to get to a certain level or they couldn't be in our college, but it's really hard for them. Some of them grow up in a village where there's not electricity, no running water. The long houses that their families live in don't have any windows. They just have a door. I have video on my phone. I can show it to you. But the families will just go in and out of the one door. So why not have any windows? Don't you think? It's a hot place. Why not have air? Because of the other tribes, because of the other villages around them. Because at any time, warriors from that other village literally come with machetes, and the women and children will, as quickly as they can, the women will gather their kids and get them inside of these. Even in the daytime, it's so dark inside these houses that they can like hide in the nooks and crannies from guys who are wielding basically swords. So our director, Dr. Tia Longcoomer, he's the one here off to the side. He's a pastor of Berean Baptist Church. He's also our on-site director. I mean, he's like, man, you guys, you Americans, you're just a bunch of cream puffs. Yep, you're right. You can't go where we go. You can't do what we do. And I'm like, if God called me to, I could, but I'm sure glad I don't have to, at least not for a very long period of time anyway, go to some, our students are regularly going out and they're working with displaced Christians from the South. I don't know, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Manipur, the Hindus, if you're aware, the Hindus literally attacked all the churches, drove the Christians not just out of their buildings, literally out of their homes, took everything they owned. And so a lot of Christians are up in the uninhabited mountain region over here, which is right next door to Nagaland, and many of them don't even have a tent. So it's cold, it's raining, during certain time. It's very hard even to get just water to drink, let alone any kind of food. So our students will go down there, and if we have enough money to help them, maybe they can get a tent and take it to someone. This is the kind of ministry that our students are involved in. And when they get done, a lot of them are going to go back to a village where they are literally the only one in history with a college degree. Okay, which gives them a level of respect from the pulpit. And anyway, there's so much more that could be said. But I want to take a little bit, or give you a little bit of time if you'd like to ask questions. I'll end my lecture with one more thing, and that is, what are Maria and I going to be doing? So 6 months a year, I think I might have mentioned this at the beginning, we'll be overseas, traveling from one spot to the next. I wear two hats for the mission. One is coordinator of education and the other is mission rep. So as coordinator of education, I have a number of things that I'm already doing. I work 40 hours a week during the week for the mission, and then I travel on the weekends, 1 to 2 days a weekend, even longer sometimes, like with this week, presenting our ministry to churches. Will be 6 months a year overseas where I'll teach a class. I'll be mentoring, let's say, the registrar. Okay, so the registrar of your college. He might have the title, but does he know how to reg? Might be like a vice president, but does he know what it all goes into VPing? You see what I'm saying? So what we don't want to do is create a Western school. What we do want to do is best practices that fit within the culture. And so that's the one part of my job that's pretty big learning curve, is how do you balance all that out. All right, so as we close here, are there any questions that you might have? India, Myanmar, and the Philippines. Oh, sorry, not Indonesia. Okay, that's a pretty heavily Muslim country. So yeah, right. Now, so I didn't say this part. I'll be really fast about this. We have asks from all over the Asia-Pacific region. There are 2 fellowships in 2 different cities in Pakistan of Pakistani Baptist pastors who want us to start a seminary location in their location. We just can't. We don't have the manpower, and we can't do that right now. We have another one in Nepal. There's another one in Thailand. There's one in Bangladesh that we probably are going to start next year, just because there is zero education, Christian education available in that predominantly Muslim country. So we are going to be going to Muslim countries. Now this is going to go against your grain like it went against mine, but the main lead pastor there, who will be our on-site director, assuming we do go forward with this, I mean, he just directly told us, do not share your faith with anyone, not at the airport, not on the street. And that's what goes against my grain, just like it does yours. You're a missionary, you go to preach the gospel. He said, if you share the gospel with anyone, they are going to turn you in that fast to the police. You will be in jail. So he said, leave the evangelism up to us. We won't be put in jail. You will as a Westerner. They're going to think you're CIA and you're trying to subvert things, and they'll be... So anyway, we are going to go to countries like, that are like Indonesia, very, very Muslim, how you work there, maybe a little bit, because we're like Vietnam, I better not say, I know this is live stream. So there's stuff in Vietnam that we're involved with, and then like in the Philippines, there are a number of islands, Tacloban, Leyte, there are 30 plus Baptist churches there that have interacted with Pacific Rim, and so we're praying about, I really, really want to, Douglas MacArthur, World War II general, when he said, I shall return to the Philippines, he returned at Tacloban. So because of my love of World War II, I really want to go over and see it. All right, anyway, other questions?
What are your finances like?
So right now we're at 38% support. We've been on deputation for about a year. The average missionary right now, according to missionary directors, boards that I've talked with, is about 3.5 years to raise support. So that's kind of it used to be 2 years was the average. Now it's about 3.5 years. And the reason for that is the size of our churches. Okay, so in the year 2000, this stat is from Lifeway Research. 358 churches in America, conservative Baptist churches, were given this huge questionnaire. One of the questions was, what's your average attendance? In the year 2000, the average attendance was 137. They went back to those same churches, this is 2 years after COVID in 2022, same ones, and they asked what's your average attendance among all the other questions. What do you think? 67. Half. Why? Baby boomer generation, 85% of boomers go to church. Of all kinds, but 85%. My generation, Gen X, far fewer. Millennials, only 15% of millennials go to any church of any kind. And then you've got the Zoomers, and then you have Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is 15 years and younger. So our churches are literally dying. They're shrinking. The amount of missionaries that we are sending out is far, far, far fewer than it was 20 years ago. Okay, and I could give you stats, I'll spare you, okay? But we are sending out far fewer missionaries, which is why it's really encouraging to see the Philippines and India and places like that sending out missionaries to replace some of the gap that America and other Western countries are leaving. Now don't write us completely off, okay? I mean, we're not going anywhere. Well, we might be, I hope so actually, but we're going to be around, right? We're going to continue to serve the Lord, but it's harder to raise the funds. So we're at 38% in about a year, and we think we'll be over 50% by the end of this year, by the end of December. And then hopefully launching, if not in 2026, by January of 27. Other questions?
I just didn't catch, are you working under or with a missions board?
Yes.
What is the name of it?
It's called Pacific Rim Missions International, PRMI. And Mark Kittrell is our director, and then there are 3 other missionaries with him, myself and 2 others.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Before I forget, out on the table there's a clipboard, so if you'd like to get our updates, right now we're sending one out about every other month, just put your name and email on that clipboard, or on the sheet on the clipboard, and we'll start sending those to you. And then there's also a packet of information if you'd like to know more about what we do. Pastor?
So how about your wife? What are the strengths that she has, and how do you see her plugging in? I've got some assumptions. It'd be fun to hear how that's going to work for her.
So my wife is like a top-notch executive secretary, okay? She worked, if you know Gospel Fellowship Association Mission Board, she got her training with them. She worked with them for 9 years right out of college. And then when we went up to Northland, they didn't know they knew who I was, they didn't really know who Maria was. So they had her as a secretary in literally the lowest secretarial position you could get, which was basically guarding where the administrative, people were. In other words, you just stood there or sat there and would admit people back into do you have a reason to go in? Okay, well, you can go in. That's all she did. In 6 months, she was the president's secretary. That's how good she is. So, I'm the biggest baby of all, right, in our family. I mean, even bigger than the kids. So she'll be taking care of me. That's probably her number one job. It's pretty rough. But then in addition to that, she'll serve our mission board in a number of ways with her administrative skills. We're still working on what she'll do when we're overseas so much, because she doesn't want to sit and hear me teach the same, stuff again and again. She wouldn't mind, like once doing, like, say, the book of James, if I go through it in one location, but then I'm going to go to the next location to do that, and the next location to do that, all within just a couple of months' time, 3 months' time. And so she's like, well, what do you think I'd do? So we're talking with Brian and Susie Stutz. You may not know who they were. They're church planners in Ohio. They're now in South Carolina. But they want to travel with us, and the two wives do like international dinners when we're there 2, maybe 3 nights a week. That's a lot of work to put that together, especially when you can't get cheese or certain things. Because like in the Philippines, they want, hey, American meals. We want American meals. Well, you can't always get the ingredients, so they're going to work together to do that, and then we're going to have informal discipleship time. So not only will the seminarian guy come, but then his wife will come, and their 4, 5, 6, whatever kids will come. So we'll have things, and then have like a 2 or 3 hour window of time where it's fun, but it's also informative. So I'll sit down and we'll talk family, And I realize that in India there are going to be some cultural differences, Philippines, so forth, but family devotions, basic things like this. Just talk about how we did as a family and all that. Anyway, some of what she'll do. Couple back there.
You mentioned a little bit about the women there, if they're safe or not.
So in the Philippines, like, zero problems. You're more safe in the Philippines than you are in Minnesota or Wisconsin. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's amazing. The worst thing that might happen would be pickpocket, and even that's not likely, okay? With one caveat, that is down in that southern region. I mean, that's different. Where we are, zero problems, other than up in the tops of the mountains, there's still a little bit of PLA, Filipino Liberation Army, Communist Army, and I've been told not to drive over the top of the mountain unless I have a Filipino brother with me. They've warned they don't do it, because sometimes the PLA will set up a roadblock and then capture the American or whoever it might be, the white person, and take them. Not likely that that's going to happen. The Filipino military has pretty much gotten rid of the PLA, but there are still some remnants. But for the most part, it's safe, totally safe for my wife. Myanmar's not safe right now. None of us would fly there because of the civil war. Hopefully that'll be over soon. In India, it totally depends on where you are. So if you're south of that line, imaginary line, the Christian line, no problems, okay? If you're in Nagaland, where half of the people know the Lord, it's got to be one of the safest, it probably is the safest place in India for a Christian to be, someone like my wife and me to be. But then there are places in India, and I'm aware of at least some of them, where I cannot bring Maria. And you know why. I don't need to say why. I mean, the police are actually the number one danger. Okay? So, literally, you have to know where you're going. So India is 700 different languages, even more than that, tribes. Okay, so when they're tribal, Philippines is tribal. Don't think, oh well, they're tribal. We're not. We are very tribal here in America. A little bit different, but try to plant a church in a town of 2,000 people in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which the Lord allowed Brent Belford and Bobby Wood and I to do. So I was the lead pastor there. I mean, this is a town of 2,000 people in Michigan, all right? And to give you an idea of how tribal we as Americans are and think, I overheard a conversation with a couple of people from Norway, Michigan, is where the church was. Overheard them talking about somebody from Iron Mountain who had started a restaurant in Norway, Michigan. And here is what how the conversation went. Yeah, they're from Iron Mountain. They'll never make it here in Norway. And I'm like, that's 10 minutes up US 2, and they're not part of our tribe. I pastored a church in Long Lake, Wisconsin while I was at Northland. So this is a community of 100 people. I was never going to be from there or belong, ever. Now, they were friendly with me, they were cordial and respectful, but I was never going to belong. So now add bloodlines to that, family to that, and you can see why, you can go to one place in India and be loved and go to another place and be in, real danger. Just depends on what tribe you're working with. I thought there might have been one more hand. Was there? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Pastor.
Just wondering about the languages.
Yeah.
Everybody speak English in your country or what do you do?
Great question. So in the Philippines, it depends on how you define language versus dialect, but the numbers are minimum of 120 different languages up to 180. It's probably closer to 120. So you have 120 different languages. So everywhere we've touched in the Philippines, they always tell us, please, we want you to teach in English, because they may have students from a different language. The other reason is almost all resources are in English, and these pastors want to study from commentaries and use Strong's Concordance. These are things not available in Ilongo or Cebuano or one of those languages. So it behooves them to know enough English. So I'm kind of like, yeah. All right, so all of our classes in the Philippines are in English. All of our classes in India, for the same reason, are in English. There are 700 plus languages in India. But then in Myanmar, all the classes are in Burmese. They do not know English there. It's not taught in schools. You can take it, I think, as an elective, but it's not typically taught as a regular language there. It's not an official language like it is in the Philippines or India. So all of our classes there are translated. We ready to head? You done? Any other questions tonight? All right. Well, thank you for having me here, pastors. Appreciate the invite. I realize, it's round robin, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to come to your area. This part of Minnesota is drop dead gorgeous. It is so pretty up in this region. I drove in at night, so I didn't get to see it. And I'm driving around today, I'm like, oh. I've been to Twin Cities how many times, and Chisago Lakes up and down there, which is also pretty once you get out of the Twin Cities are not pretty. Sorry if you're from there. I'm trying to get out of there as fast as possible. But man, you get outside of that metro area, at least in the north, it's just like, wow. So thanks for inviting me. It's great to see what God's doing here in the church. Let's close in prayer, and then Pastor, are you going to come up with a closing announcement? All right. Father, thank you for these dear people. They've taken time out of their evening to come and be a part of this Round Robin Missions Conference, to hear the missionary presentation. Lord, use what was said tonight to do far more than just spit out some facts. May it encourage us. May it motivate us to pray more for missions, and to maybe even for a few, even consider themselves being missionaries, or even teaching a class online for a mission board like ours. So Lord, use this church as a lighthouse in this community, and may more and more people come to know you as Savior right here in central Minnesota. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.